Welcome to the Swim Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges, and joining us today, he is the director of swimming for the Stanford women's swim team. He is an Olympic coach. He is a multiple-time NCAA champion head coach, and he is now a member of the ACC. Today, we are sitting down with Greg Meehan. Greg, thanks so much for being here. How's it going?
Thanks, Coleman. It's awesome to be here. I enjoy these chats, and it's been a really great week, basking in the glory of Super Bowl victory for my beloved Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm riding high right now.
This episode of the Swim Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. What do you guys do? Fly, Eagle, fly?
Fly, Eagles, fly. I would sing the whole song for you, but nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, that's not what we're here for, but congrats.
No, thank you.
On the Eagles, I'm sure. You guys are a group of fans unlike any other, I would say.
Irrational, maniacal. Yeah, there's lots of descriptions, but we love our team. That's for sure.
It was a good Sunday for Philly. And, so far, seemingly, it's been a good season for the Cardinal as well. Birds flying all around. I guess you guys aren't even birds. I don't
know. No, it's a cardinal color, but that's okay.
Yeah. So just to start this conversation off, tell me a little bit about how this season has gone for the Stanford women in terms of transitioning into the ACC. And maybe changes you've made as a staff or you've had to make as a team, or just how that adjustment period has been, because we've seen this all over the country with numerous college teams. Conference realignment is real. It's pretty wacky. And so give us some insight as to how it has affected you and this season.
Yeah, not so much just yet. I think the announcement came late enough this past spring where, that a lot of teams were working on budgets and putting travel schedules together. And so we had tried to get some meets off the ground with conference opponents, but also respecting that, this is a delicate time in college athletics, and we have to have mindfulness about budget and spending. And so, we ironically, our schedule didn't change at all. We had some ACC meets, but that was against Cal because that's who, we continue to race. And we kept a sort of an old Pac-12 schedule, easy travel, a little bit less expensive. And so we competed against UCLA and USC, and we competed against Arizona State. We competed against Cal. And so, we I think have thought a lot about what next year looks like and having some of those conversations, but there wasn't quite enough time to really get a schedule dialed in. But I think even in the future, when we go, we would probably be pretty mindful of, like one or two trips to go compete against ACC schools, and then really try and just repeat what we've done out here, because we've got such a great schedule. With being able to compete against teams like USC and Arizona State, and we're trying to get Arizona back on the schedule next year. So it's kind of worlds colliding in some ways. And then we have gone to Austin for the last 2 years for our midseason meet, and that's been really great. And there aren't really any ACC teams that have come in for that either, but high-level racing, getting to race Texas and Wisconsin and USC, and so that's been really fun for us, and that's kind of the focal point of our fall. With school starting later, we don't have a ton of dual meets leading into that. So the midseason meet's a big focal point. I thought we swam really great out there against some really good teams, so that was fun. And then over the last 6 weeks, we've just kind of gotten into our routine of competing against those schools as we get ready for the postseason.
Yeah. And then heading into this postseason, you're making a big decision for your team and specifically for your NCAA athletes. We had a great conversation about this earlier. I'm really excited to break this down with you and get some of the whys and get those whys firsthand. So tell me about how the Stanford women will be approaching this postseason, specifically next week. Their first ACC conference championships, and what went into this decision for you.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to be a part of the ACC. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's the best swimming conference in the NCAA. And I look through the kind of the women's swimming and diving lens. It's just a powerhouse that we're walking into, and so we're really excited and grateful to have that opportunity. And it's really interesting. I mean, we're trying to keep things normal. We're trying to also adapt and continue. For us, like, we've always approached conference meets with the idea of what's going to best prepare us for the NCAA championships. And so as we have thought about that for months on end, we really wanted to pull back the lens and look at the whole picture. Because for us, it's, the conference meets in Greensboro. Even if things go smoothly, it's a 10-hour travel day door to door from when they leave their dorms until we get into the hotel Sunday night in Greensboro. Like, it's a good 10 hours of travel. And so that, with 3-hour time change, it kind of makes us pause and think about, like, okay, what do we want to get out of the ACC championships? In the past with Pac-12s, we've been able to, very, very easy, right? It's on the same coast. It's the same format as NCAAs. It's women only, same event order. We've been able to kind of get the check the boxes that we were really looking for out of Pac-12s. Like, we want to race hard. We want to, try and win the meet. And we want to qualify as many people for NCAAs. And all of that under the umbrella of, like, maximum performance at NCAAs. So as we looked at that here, it so much is different. It's a 4.5-day meet. It's men and women. The event order for prelims and finals isn't the same either as NCAAs. So, like, so much of it is different. And so, walking into this meet with 15 teams, 14 teams, it's going to be crazy. And it's going to be so much fast swimming. And so we're going to lean into that part. But for our group that's got NCAA qualifying times, we're going to send them home after Friday morning prelims. So they'll go out, they'll race Tuesday night, they'll race all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, go Friday prelims. That's getting each of them enough touches with their best events. Again, just kind of one last little tune-up, and then travel back to campus. They'll travel back with our assistant coach, Kim Williams, and then Katie Robinson and I will stay out in Greensboro with the group that's still there. And then that way, that NCAA crew, they'll get back late Friday night, but they'll be able to just do a little bit of a flush on Saturday at some point during the day, take Sunday off, and then kind of get into a rhythm on Monday. And we felt like that is going to best assimilate, what we've done in the past. When we think about emotional investment and travel and all of that stuff, what could we pull back? And so we talked about it as a team. Everybody's behind it. We're excited. We're still going out there to swim fast. Our group that's already qualified, they're not going to need a lot of rest to go be pretty good. So, we've kept their workload up, and we'll give them a couple days rest, and they should swim well in that environment because it's Yeah, it's going to be hype in that facility in the GAC. And then for everybody else that's still trying to get there, we're all about them and their experience and swimming fast and hoping to pick up some extra NCAA cuts along the way, and then come back on Sunday. So it was really trying to make it about what's best for us, because we've been on a really great journey, frankly, for the last 18 months. It isn't just about this year. Like, we had a great team last year. We performed really well at NCAAs. We performed really well at trials and the games, and we've just kind of picked up right where we left off this season. Just swimming really well, and we have as healthy a culture as I think we've ever had in my time here. It's just such a fun group to coach. So wanting to really see this through, and kind of keeping our eyes on NCAAs and trying to maximize that performance.
Yeah, lot to take in there, which I really appreciate. When we had this conversation, you gave such a thorough answer. It's like I just enjoy getting so much context for this decision, because I think at face value, it's something maybe we haven't seen a lot before. I think we've seen maybe Cal and Dave Durden, make a similar decision with sending Olympic hopefuls to a pro swim instead of to a Pac-12 championships. But it was, when I heard that this was happening, I was surprised, just because I had never heard of something like this before. But then you break it down and you start listing the whys and the what's going into this. And like you said, it will be it is what's best, what you feel is best for the Stanford women's team, especially with your goals being those NCAA championships. I do want you to mention the Stanford women's soccer team and what you've learned from, I guess, other teams that have participated in the ACC this season, and how they have handled their postseasons, or what you've learned from how their postseasons went.
Yeah, it's a great point. As I was talking with my administrator about the sort of this plan, right? Have to get support from the top down, and at Stanford, like it's always about Director's Cup and trying to score as many points for Stanford as we can in the Director's Cup, and that's based off of NCAA performance. And so, in kind of sharing our ideas and our plans, and there were several iterations of this plan from all aspects, right? And when we were talking through that, she had just returned from the NCAA Women's College Cup, which is their version of the Final Four. And our women's soccer team, had made the College Cup. But this whole plan had kind of resonated with her, because they were running out of gas a little bit at the end of the season. They travel a lot more than we do, right? But they're traveling and competing a lot, and they're going coast to coast. And they had started to trail off, and they had lost some close games, and they actually didn't qualify for the ACC tournament. 'Cause the ACC tournament for soccer, they have 6 teams that make it. And so we didn't qualify for the ACC tournament, but they qualified for the NCAA tournament. And so they got to stay home. They rested, didn't have to travel, and then they get into the NCAA tournament, and they're fresher, and they make a run, and they make it all.
How many teams are in the NCAA tournament for soccer?
For women's soccer, I think they do a full field. I think they go 64, and I think the men are maybe only 32. I'm not exactly positive on that, but I think that's the rundown. Okay. So it's, they were able to take advantage of that rest. And then, they made a run. And so it certainly made all of us kind of pause and think about it in the scope of, okay, what do we learn from that, to your point? Because we're always trying to learn from experiences. And we like, okay, what does not going at all look like? we didn't necessarily love that idea. And the team really wanted to race, and so okay, we're going out there, and we're not going out there to just mail it in. Like, we're going to go out there and race, take advantage of that, reinforce, like, swimming fast in prelims. It's going to be that those prelim sessions are going to be almost as good as what it's going to take to make a final at NCAAs. Obviously it extends that the SEC and Big Ten and Big 12 are all really strong conferences. But the depth in the ACC is incredibly strong. And so we want to go out there, race, want to be forced to get going in the morning to earn a spot at nighttime and just kind of go through that process. We'll get to do a few of the relays, not all. The 200 medley and 800 free relay that first night, the 200 free relay on night 2. And then we may or may not, depending on how many bodies we have in Greensboro the last 2 days, we may do the 4 medley and the 4 free or not. But feel like we're in a spot there where our times will hold up to still be top 8 seeds going into NCAA. So we would be in the final heat, especially with our aggregate in our 4 medley. So yeah, just we're thinking about all the different pieces. And for anyone that kind of has spent time with me or knows me, like to kind of really walk this through and have a plan. One of my things is just always having a plan, adjust plans, but having a plan. And this one feels right for us right now. And there's no guarantee, like anything, but we feel like this is what's best for us and this team right now.
Yeah, one of the questions I had written was, how do you break this news to your team, or how do you discuss it with them? But it sounds like it was a little more collaborative than just you deciding as a staff, or you deciding and then saying, all right, guys, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just talking to key people and really getting a sense of, for some that have been there before, what that looks and feels like at the NCAA Championships, and how do we best prep for that. And and then we talked about it as a team in Colorado Springs a couple of weeks ago, or I guess now, this was probably early part of January, right before we left, and just really opened the floor and gave them the opportunity to ask questions. It's like, we don't want to have a meeting after the meeting. Like, let's what are your questions now? Let's work through all of it, and we'll continue talking about it. And we've got everybody's individual plan for the meets in terms of what they're racing, and contingency plans on, okay, if they make NCAAs on Thursday, then they join the group that's flying back after Friday prelims. And so that that we're ready to just kind of adjust as we go. We've got 11 that are solidly in at this point, and certainly hope to add to that. But just feeling good about that part. And again, kind of not sacrificing what ACCs presents, and it presents an awesome competition with some of the best swimmers in the country, some of the best swimmers in the world. When you look at those rosters, and so we're excited to get in there and just go to battle a little bit.
I'm curious if you have gotten. I'm guessing, since you've told me this, have you told, is the rest of the ACC aware that this is your plan?
They will be before the video comes out.
Okay.
We are. I'm going to contact our ACC contacts and just kind of let them know what our plan is, and just kind of really just talk through the whys, and that there's no guarantee that this is what we're going to do next year, right? We're really this is about this particular group, this team, and what we're trying to do. And next year we'll be there. It'll be waiting for us when we get there.
So you're going to have this conversation pretty polished by the end of the week. So as you said, your athletic director was supportive of this decision, and you mentioned this resonated with her because of what she had seen with this women's soccer team. I'm curious if you've gotten feedback from anyone outside of the team who kind of knows swimming and knows what a swimming conference championships looks like?
Yeah, certainly I've talked to a couple of my friends. As a staff, we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. I mean,
Mhm.
we started talking about it in the summer last year, just like starting the idea of what it means. Talked a lot about it with Dan, our men's coach here, Dan Schemmel, and they're taking a different approach because that's what they need. But it's awesome just to bounce ideas off of Dan, to bounce ideas off of Katie and Kim, um, other friends that aren't in the swimming world but at least understand athletics. Um, I talked to Pat Forty because Pat's not only in media, obviously, but I coached his daughter Brooke for 4 years, and he understands the swimming landscape, both at the conference level, at the NCAA level, and at the international level, and just trying to like get a sense of what different like how this is received, and I think to a person when you really explain it out most are like, yeah, I get it. And whether or not they would do the same thing, I think they understand the whys and the reasoning.
Mhm. What did Pat have to say?
Yeah, he gets it, right?
Mhm.
Because he's looking at it through two lenses, right? As a parent of a
Yeah.
pretty elite swimmer, and as someone who covers the sport. He doesn't cover it as much collegiately, but he certainly covers it internationally, and he gets it. He understands the focus on the most important meets, and that resonated with him. And I think Brooke would have really liked that plan as well. And so that, yeah, there's been really good conversations. And that's the thing. I didn't want to, or we didn't want to operate and make this decision inside of a vacuum. We wanted to at least kind of get some feelers out there. What's the public perception? Because the reality is like, that's also part of it, but we're really doing this for us. It's always been about us. And I love this team so much. This has been such a fun year coaching this group that we have. I mean, we returned almost everybody from last year. We have this really cool freshman class that's joined us. Tori's back into the mix. Like it's been really fun, and so wanting to see this through for this group to score as many points as we can, to just like go represent Stanford at the biggest and most important meet of the year at NCAAs, and just continuing to have that be the backdrop.
Absolutely. I very much appreciate your perspective as a head coach where, as you said, I'm focused on us. My priority is this team, and I hope that message resonates with our audience, with swimmers and swammers.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna ask you to perhaps take off your head coach hat for a moment. In a time where, as you said, college swimming is in a precarious position. There's not a ton of certainty about just the landscape moving forward, and I think there is a big push to grow the sport, or put a lot of positivity, draw a lot of positive attention to it, um, with athletic departments cutting non-revenue sports left and right. Do you think a decision like this to, for part of a team to forego part of a conference championships has a ripple effect from that perspective?
It's a great question, and it's a really good perspective. And I have thought a lot about that. And in this ever changing landscape, I think I just keep falling back to like, what do we need? What's best for us? I think it would be very different, Coleman, if we just no showed, right? And I think that's the part
Mhm.
that um, we're only there. We're only not there for 3 sessions out of uh, 9. And so,
Two
we're still
thirds, yeah.
yeah, we're still
You're
kind
passing. You're Sorry.
we're still there, and we're still like rolling up our sleeves and getting into it, and like going ahead and going, toe to toe with some of the best athletes and teams that the NCAA has to offer. And there will be good fireworks at that meet. I mean, anytime Virginia shows up, right, there's going to be fireworks. And so just the opportunity to go race them and to race the whole conference. I mean, it's incredibly strong. Looking at the psych sheet, it's really impressive. And it's bigger, it's deeper, it's stronger than what we've had in the past. But I have thought about that ripple effect. But then I also think about that there isn't a direct okay, you qualify as a team at the conference meet to NCAAs, right? You're qualifying individually, and everyone's approaching it differently. I don't think if there's teams there that have athletes that are already qualified for NCAAs that aren't fully tapered, does that take away from the experience of the meet? No, I don't think so, right? And yes, continuing to grow the sport is very top of mind. And I get that. And I'd like to thank you and Kyle Sockwell and others that are really pumping a lot of the meets and the fast swimming that we've had. And we've, frankly, we've adapted a lot. I was the don't put on the racing suits until championship season guy. And that last year was the first season we ever started putting on suits, and this season we continued to do that, and swimming faster more regularly. And I think it's really helped us. We're still staying true to ourselves, but also adapting with the times. And, it wasn't necessarily broadcast anywhere, but we had an incredible turnout for our meet with USC. It was an awesome Saturday afternoon. It was packed in the stands. And just continuing to generate energy around competitions. And so, yeah, does this sting a little bit the last day and a half of the conference? Yeah, yes, and I get that. But also, thinking about okay, the NCAA Championships is also our most important competition that we have. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're asking me, should we continue to consider making changes to the format of the NCAA meet? Absolutely. Yeah. We have got to figure this out. But I'm working off of where we are right now. But yeah, down the road, do we need to get off of the basketball tournament timeline as soon as possible? Yes. Right. And I filled out the survey. I gave a lot of feedback last year. The CSCAA survey they did on that. We need to move off of March, really February and March, our conference championships. What does it look like to do a conference championship in December and an NCAAs in April? There's a million ways to go about it. But yes, we need to continue to get creative, or we're going to fall by the wayside. So I'm mindful of all of that. It didn't impact our collective decision on this particular meet ahead of us next week. But yeah, I'm thinking about it quite a bit.
And this is why we talk. I really appreciate that answer and just all the insight you bring to it, all the different perspectives you're looking at it from. I love that you're a suit guy now because I think that's made this sport so much more attractive, right? It's just
Agreed.
swimming fast more. But yeah, and I just appreciate you bringing up how this team has adapted, how many teams have adapted that might not get noticed. And I think, we've seen other teams do what they feel is best for them. I think in certain situations, maybe at a conference or NC2As, we've seen Cal before, if their athletes aren't on relays, they go to the hotel, they rest them. Virginia doesn't swim the 800 free relay at midseason. Right. It's we've seen examples of this before. And again, it's head coaches doing what's best for their team in that moment. Right. Which, man, again, just the tornado of conference realignment. I can't imagine how much you've had to juggle and adjust. It seems like a lot. And personally, I'm excited to see how this plays out and see what does happen and what comes of it, and how what we can learn from this adjustment moving forward. I also want to bring up one more point you and I had discussed, which is, and again, people might not consider this. Once your athletes get home on a Friday evening as opposed to a Sunday evening, how that might affect the next 1 or 2 or plus weeks
Or
moving forward.
yeah. Yeah, because it's we thought about, or when we were talking about all of this, we're reminded of how lousy they feel coming out of Pac-12s. Um, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, finally, like Thursday, they start to feel normal. And that's off a meet that's a 90-minute flight and the same time zone, women only 3.5 days. I mean, there's nothing similar to that, to what we're going to have next week. And so we really wanted to like get back to it as quickly as we can. And I'm guessing there's going to be some ACC teams that'll be able to bus home and they'll be sleeping in their bed Saturday night, and that's not our experience. Again, it's another 10-hour travel day if things go well, to get back to campus. And then it's as much as of the physical piece of it, it's also the emotional investment. It's you're running a 10 out of 10 if you're not careful every session every day. And so we're trying to just like stay relaxed in between, because outside of dual meets and a mid-season, like our postseason has never been combined with the men, and it's a whole different dynamic. And we're excited to support the guys, but also like we need to regulate a little bit our emotional investment in it. It's kind of like in and out, as we go throughout the course of the days and the sessions, and then we'll learn a lot. And this may be a terrible idea, and next year we throw it out the window, or for this particular team, maybe it's exactly what they needed. And that's certainly the hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I again, as sports fans of any sport, I think it's so easy to get caught up in the numbers or the results and not realize the emotional investment or the emotional tax that these big events, really any events, but certainly a championship scenario like this one can take on an athlete, and then how that steamrolls into their next few weeks, especially if they're preparing to and gearing up for another championship situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all of your insight on this. I'm I'm very excited to for this to happen and to see how it goes. I'm also excited. We talked about this on our breakdown podcast a couple days ago, and I'm just gonna uh, share this with you because I think you might appreciate it. That in 2021, two athletes that you have coached, Claire Curzon and Tori Husk, have this like rivalry that was like building up into Olympic trials. And now, I never thought I'd say it, but now at the 2025 ACC Championships, we may get to see them race again.
Yes, that's awesome.
Which is exciting.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm excited to see Claire. I haven't seen her since the summer. We're on good terms, and she's having a great year, at least from a distance. So I'm excited to see her, and she's gonna light it up next week, and she'll continue to get faster at NCAAs. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. All of that, just like all of them. Seeing athletes that spend a lot of time with this summer, to just getting to know some teams that really we don't compete with very much, and looking forward to that as well.
And on that note, final question. It's a bit off topic, but I'm just curious as a swim fan. You're a high level coach who has coached on Olympic staffs, who's headed Olympic staffs, World Championship staffs. You've been on many international trips with USA Swimming. coached many athletes across the board, high school, college, professional. In the position that USA Swimming is now in, with this change of leadership, and the search for a national team director, which is a bit of a departure from the last situation, but a return to the situation that was before that, or implemented in USA Swimming. As a coach who this may be affected, who may be affected by this change in leadership, just what are you looking for in a national team director? What would you personally like to see that role entail?
Yeah, I think someone that understands the college landscape for sure,
Hmm.
because it's not just about the number of NCAA athletes that make up the world championship teams or the Olympic teams, but most of our professional athletes are training at college campuses, and so understanding the NCAA landscape and how they can best support our NCAA athletes and our professional athletes that are here, um, to wake up every day and think about how we can win Olympic gold medals. Like I would think is going to be really important for this person. So I get excited thinking about what that looks like in the future, and how they can positively impact places like Texas and Virginia and Florida and Stanford and Cal, and just really what that looks like, and then without losing touch of um, that national junior team to national team development, right? And Brendan is now in charge of the national junior team, and sounds like he's doing a really great job. And that, right, like whoever gets hired, working well with him, so that it's a really continued focus on how we get from point A to point B. Yeah, just energizing, I think, the national team, and energizing those teams on particular trips. I think that was a takeaway from the summer. It just felt like we can be a little bit better, and just bring more energy to what we're doing on a daily basis. So it's a really important job. I know they've got to get or at least it sounds like they've got to get the CEO hire done first, and that's certainly, I think, taken longer than most people thought. Yeah, we're all just kind of waiting to see what happens there, and and then they'll go through the process from that. So I'm excited about what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, I've heard all sorts of whispers, but obviously nothing substantial at all. And as you said, we'll just have to wait and see what this looks like. But while I had you here, that was on top of my mind lately. So
Yeah.
just wanted your take on it. But thank you so much, Greg, for sitting down to chat and taking the time to, again, give us your perspective, give us these whys on this decision. And good luck to the Stanford women heading into this NCAA postseason.
Thanks. Yeah, look forward to seeing you out at ACCs next week.
I will see you in Greensboro.
There we go.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.